All right, and we are live now. Hello, thank you everyone who is joining us today. Well, I have Godless Cranium on my on here for an interview, and hopefully all goes well. So thank you GC for coming on to today. And I guess the first question is, tell me a little about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on. So a little bit about myself. I live in Canada. I work in social services, so I work with the deafblind. I make YouTube videos in my spare time, almost all of my spare time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a fiance, 2 dogs.
All right. And you do, just to make sure I'm right on this, you do label yourself as an anti-theist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Another question is, what is one of the greatest cons of religion?
Greatest cons of religion. I would say the whole sin thing is kind of a con, right? Because there's that old saying about they convince you that you're sick so that they can sell you the cure, which is pretty spot on, I think. There's no such thing as sin. Instead of they just use guilt against you. The whole, even like if you look at Christianity, like the whole Jesus thing is basically a guilt trip, right? Like it's, oh look, look at what this guy did for you, and oh, you're going to reject that kind of sacrifice and things like that. So I think that's one of them, right? Probably the biggest con there. Another big con is just getting you to give them your money, right? Like 10% of your income. That's literally a con. So
okay, I was not thinking about that aspect, but that does make sense. Do you see benefit to religion at all, or having religion in society?
no. I mean, and it's kind of a hard question because all of basically my stance is that all of the things that you could get from religion that you would consider positive, like say community or any of the comfort or any of those things, I think you can do without religion. So I don't, while there might be some benefit to religion, I don't think that benefit couldn't be got somewhere else, somewhere better, that's aligned with truth more, aligned with truth better than you would from a theist point of view. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm kind of wondering on this next question that I have on my list of, since you said you really didn't see much benefit, the next one was, what do you think maybe the greatest benefit religion has to offer is, or do you just not see any in that aspect?
I don't see any that again couldn't be gotten somewhere else better. So and again, that's why I made my Christian, like it was a Christian challenge, but it could be a challenge to any religion. Like a Muslim could answer it or whatever, or a Jew or somebody else, right? Any of them could answer that. Like what possibly could you get from religion that you would consider beneficial that you couldn't get somewhere else, right? And so far I've gotten no good answers. I have one lined up actually that I'm going to be responding to whenever I get a chance, but definitely so yes, I would see that there might be some, I don't think religion survived because it didn't do anything good, but at the same time all of that goodness could have been gotten by something truthful rather than the lie that is religion, that there's this God and he personally loves you, and all that kind of garbage. It's just not true. And I think also that a lot of times it stunts our growth, right? Like it stunts our ability to grieve. It stunts our ability to grapple with reality, right? Because I don't know, like say, I use this example when my father died, right? Like everybody was saying, well, basically, it's not as bad as it seems because you're going to see him again. But to me, that's just stunting your ability to grieve, right? So while some people might find that comforting, I don't, and I don't think that if you lived in a society where people weren't surrounding you and saying those things to you all the time, I don't think that you would necessarily find, like, just imagine you lived in a society and there was no God belief, and then all of a sudden somebody came up to you and was like, oh, your dad just died, well, don't worry, it's going to be okay, you're going to see him again later, right? I don't think you would find that comforting because you didn't grow up being conditioned to find it comforting.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I think I commented on that video, on the one that you made the challenge to, and the only thing I could come up with, and it was, and again, I don't believe it, but the only answer I could come up with was that of an afterlife, of the the not of the fear of the unknown, whereas that's can help comfort them, but even there, that's I'm with you. It's better to believe true things than things that can't be proven. And I do agree with you that I think most things can be achieved through a purely secular, method. Next question that I have is, if you were to become religious, like for whatever reason, what religion would you see yourself becoming part of?
So if I mentally went insane, what would I do?
It's hypothetical. If, like, I mean, out of all the religions that you've looked at and studied, what do you see yourself most likely to join? Although they are all pretty well slim to none.
Well, I think Buddhism's got some neat concepts to it, although they believe in like karma and stuff, which is nonsense.
Yeah.
And coming back again and all that kind of stuff. But like the stuff about meditation and some of that stuff's pretty interesting. So I could kind of get into doing some of that. I just read the Satanist Bible actually, and there's some stuff in there that I would agree with. So, but I don't think I could emo up enough to become a Satanist.
Yeah, I don't know if I would look so good in the black robes, but yeah, yeah, I'm actually kind of the same way with you in that. As I almost actually became Buddhist at one point. Just those things you mentioned were, like, as a philosophy, Buddhism I think is actually really good. If you look at like the philosophy of it, not as a religious tenet. But that's kind of my opinion on that. Mm-hmm. The next question is, what is, in your opinion, the worst argument for the existence of God that you have heard?
The worst argument?
Yeah, that you have heard.
They're all bad. I've never heard one that I thought was good. So like they're all kind of like equally bad. Just some are just sound more insane than others. The one that I've heard the most recently is like math proves God. So like just numbers, and then they'll usually bring out like some, well, you don't believe in metaphysics? Well, yeah, I do. Like I believe that, but math is based on our brain, right? Like a brain came up with it. It's a symbol that describes something, right? You don't need any woo for that. You don't need magic for that. It's not a magical thing, but they just bring up metaphysics because they want to inject some kind of woo-ish magic into everyday ordinary things, right? It's ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's okay. If you had to pick out of all the really bad ones, what is the best out of them? Like, I mean, I know that's stretching, but what is the best one out of the one that you've heard for the existence of God?
I don't think there's any best one. I mean, there's just there's ones that people try. Like I find that a lot of times apologists try to muddy the water, so they just want to make themselves sound smart and not actually talk plainly, because as soon as you start talking plainly, then you can be countered, right? So all you have to do is start bringing out, metaphysics and start, essences and, oh, look, there's triangles in math and and all of it's just nonsense, right? Like if you really wanted to make a solid argument, then you would make it in such a way that people can understand it. It would be perfectly plain, right? Like, I mean, when, I don't know, like Stephen Hawking tells you about science, right? Like, he wants to pass on the information about what he's working on. He doesn't talk in scientific jargon, right? Like he tells you what in regular everyday speak, right? What people want to know, right? And I remember like a long time ago, when I was in school, my English teacher told me, like, if you can't communicate your ideas, then your ideas are garbage, right? Because you're not gonna, only you will understand them and nobody else will. So you have to learn how to communicate your message, right? And to do it effectively. And I find that a lot of apologists don't do that on purpose because they don't want you to be able to counter their argument. So they just, and then they can come out by saying, well, you just don't understand philosophy, or you just don't understand this, right? Like, no, it's not that we don't understand. It's that you're not speaking plainly. You're just muddying the waters.
Yeah. So the plain semantics with philosophy. I don't mind philosophy. It's an interesting topic to go into, but I absolutely hate it because it's like, you're going, well, what about this? And it's, some philosophical arguments are fun to argue, but they're, to me, in an argument of logic and reason, they're almost, because yes, they follow logic in that. Most philosophical arguments do, but it's just you're playing semantics with words.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the ones that I've gotten into, a big one is, and I know, Steve has had this topic of whether or not you be agnostic atheist. It's now you're playing the semantics game of, well, you can't be. No, you're playing semantics, and I don't like that. The next one,
I do think that you have to be able to define your terms, right? Like, so because speaking is just communication, right? So if I'm saying something, every word that I say is a symbol, right? So if I say something to you, then you if I say car, you symbolize a car. You might not be thinking of the same car I'm thinking of, but basically a car is a car, right? But so you have to have like a basic understanding of the words you're using. So I think that's valuable. That part's valuable. But when you start, just doing it on purpose to try to get people to be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and then you make them look stupid, right? Like that's not how you should be communicating. If you want, especially if you're doing something, like if you're a theist, right? Like if you think that your message is going to save somebody from hell, then you would think that the first thing that you would want to be doing is trying to communicate your message as effectively as possible, right?
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's why whenever I get into a discussion about God, unless I know that they're Christian, my first argument is, okay, can you define God so we can be on the same page of what we're talking about? And that's, so defining terms, I agree with you, is important, and that part of philosophy, I mean, that makes sense. But when you start just trying to conflate terms and go, well, you mean this, and it's like, no, that's not what I said, and I was clear on that. That's where I think one of my biggest issues in the whole philosophical arguments come into, when they try and argue God philosophically. I'm like,
even when you see, like, say you're watching a debate, or you're watching a YouTube video, and it's like a professional philosopher, I don't know, like Dennett, right? Dennett doesn't, when you hear him talk about philosophy, it doesn't sound like gobbledygook, right? Like you understand what he's saying to you.
And too many times I see too many people not understanding what is all what like they make it so confusing that you're like, I can't even, and then they go, oh, you can't counter it, therefore I win. And it's like, no, if I don't understand what you're saying, I can't counter what you're saying.
Because you have to untangle it. It's just an untangleable mess. It's just garbage.
But the next question I have is, who would you say is your greatest YouTube influence?
I don't know. Geez, I don't know. I guess I find like all of the people that I've kind of created like a little community with, like, like Vice Rhino and Shannon and Pelosia and GM Skeptic and those people, like, and Holy Kool-Aid, I could go on and on, but that kind of like group of people they're all very good YouTubers, I think, and they're very inspiring to me.
All right. The next question I have is, do you think there was ever a guy named Jesus that the stories in the Bible were based on, or do you follow the mythicism approach to Jesus, and why or why not?
I never ever really entered into that debate because it doesn't really matter to me. Like it only matters to me on a curiosity level. Like if somebody were to be like, oh, we found, absolute proof that Jesus existed, I'd be like, that's cool. But that still leaves all the questions that I actually care about, which is, was he the son of God? Can you prove that? No. So,
okay.
I mean, it could be whether it's a regular person or not. I mean, it's very possible that there was, a rabbi back then that went by, Yeshua or something like that. But really, that doesn't matter in the big scheme of things, because I still don't believe that he was, a son of God, that he rose from the dead, or that he had to in order to, make me fit to enter heaven, right? So
I'm kind of there with you. I think there was maybe some person back in the time, that might have been named, that was named Jesus, that maybe said some of the things, but it's just through the years and telephone game he got, that fish that got away and it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
yeah.
Well, that Jesus was the fish that got away, and then it just kind of conflated into there. All right, next question for you is, in the field of social work, do you have any do you see any what are some of the hindrances you see caused by religion?
Well, not a lot. I mean, I do have to take a client to church, and I think it's kind of sad that they're feeding them these stories as if they're true when they're not. But it's not my job to judge what he wants to do with his time, right? So I'm not going to tell him not to. But there's some there's another program I went to today actually that's run by a church, like a church group. It's not in a church, but they're affiliated with a church, and they did some excellent work with they have a music club, and we they sing songs and stuff like that, not Jesus songs but regular songs. So there's some stuff. Again, I think we can accomplish those things without religion, right? There's no reason why you can't make a music club without it being affiliated to a religion. But and I think it's important that as religion wanes, that we do that, right? That we start moving away from these religious organizations that are doing some of the heavy lifting, and start putting that in secular hands, right? Start promoting that kind of stuff and doing that kind of thing.
All right, and I guess kind of in the same sense we're asking about the hindrances, what are or if any benefits that you might see that religion does in your field, whether it be whatever it may be?
Well, I've had to work with religious organizations to do soup kitchens and stuff, especially when I worked with teens. Before I worked with the deafblind, we did a lot of stuff there's a lot of if you need a bed for a night kind of thing, there's religious organizations have some of that covered. So you kind of have to work with them. So, and there's obviously there's good people in in religious organizations that really do want to help people, right? Again, if you took the religion away, are those people that are naturally giving, are they going to stop being giving? I don't think so. I think they would just be doing it under a different label or a different company or organization.
And then into some of the audience feed questions that we had. We have two from Fred. The first one from him is, if you were a god, would you create an afterlife?
No, I wouldn't, because I think what makes life special is that there's a time limit, right? If you knew that you had forever, then everything you do would lose meaning, right? Because you could just be like, I could just do that tomorrow. Or the next day or the next day. Why, but because it's so short and you only have a certain amount of time, then it makes everything more focused, right? It's I might not be here tomorrow, so I better get what I want to, if I want my fiance to know that I love her, because tomorrow I might not be here, right? So I got to do that now.
So you're telling me that my philosophy of why do today what I can put off to tomorrow is not a good one?
It's probably not a good one. Don't worry, I use that philosophy a lot too.
I'm notorious that way when I work on projects. So, I don't that's why the script has. I'm trying to make the script write itself, and it's not working out in my favor for that one video I want to do. The next question for Fred is, if you were a god, would you let people know you exist? If so, would you answer prayers?
Would I not? Yeah, I'd probably let them know. I don't know. It would depend on what kind of god, because if I was able to make, I don't know, the way I think of it is like this, right? If you were a god and you were able to create universes, like, you know, a lot of the monotheist religions now think, you wouldn't care about me, right? Because I'd be so like, it would be like me worrying about the plaque, you know, the plaque on my teeth, right? Like,
Yeah.
like each individual bacteria, right? Like I don't do that. I just brush my teeth
Yeah.
and I kill them. So I would think that being a god that is that powerful would be much the same. Probably like the bacteria actually would be bigger to a god, like to me, than it would be to a god. So no, I probably wouldn't. If I did, I don't know that what is worshiping ever going to do? Like nothing, right? I might be able to answer prayers, or I might. Why would you even need to pray though? Because I would just know what you want, and if I wanted to grant it, I would just give it to you, right? Like I wouldn't need you to. I wouldn't need you to go through the motions of a ritual.
Yeah. The next one is from Sentence Sentiment, and it is there a socially greater good than atheism?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. If I had to guess, like, socially, is there anything that would I don't know how you would I like a greater good than atheism? I'm thinking like, is there anything that like maybe helps in atheism? I mean, I think that's my interpretation here. What he's trying to ask. That was just the question. I'm like, well, he might know his meaning. If not, that's kind of where I'm going with it. So yeah, we're going to go with that's what was the intended question.
All right, well, I'll try to answer it. Atheism doesn't have any social. There's nothing social about it, right? Like it's just you don't believe something. So it would be the same social as, you know, you saying that there's a pink dragon, an invisible pink dragon that wants me to paint myself pink and do the cha-cha, right? And I'm saying no, I don't think so. That's the exact same social.
You're just envisioning your avatar that you always use painted being dancing to cha-cha. I'm sorry, that's I just thought, yeah. I have a very random mind. And one that actually came from a friend of mine on Facebook was, what is your stance on free will? Like, do you think it exists or no?
No, I don't. I don't think it exists. I mean, it depends on how you define free will. But if you define it as, you know, the classic idea of free will, that there's like a spirit and it somehow is able to make different choices. I think if you rewind time, so if I'm like right now I'm drinking a coffee, so if I rewound time to this exact second, every time I would just be taking a sip of the coffee because all the conditions would be the exact same. My brain would make the exact same choice.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's okay. And I think that's about it on the questions that I have for that. So yeah, that was about it. And I just want to say, you know, thank you, GC, for coming on for this interview. I really did enjoy our time. And the only thing I have left to say is all praises be to the invisible pink dragon.
Well, thanks a lot for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and I'll definitely come on again if you want me to.
All right. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. Bye.